Good afternoon and welcome to this month's show. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss progress being made in secure cloud computing in the federal government. With me on today's show are Paul Puckett, Director of Enterprise Cloud Management Office, U.S. Army; Karen Wrege, Chief Information Officer at the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls, U.S. Department of State; Ashley Mahan, Secure Cloud Portfolio and FedRAMP Director at the General Service Administration; Joe Hamblin, Department of Defense, Chief Technology Officer at Verizon; Habib, Hourani, Team Lead Federal Solutions Engineering at Octa; and Nicholas Speece, Chief Federal Technologist at Snowflake. Well, this is a perfect subject and a perfect panel. We've got comms, we've got engineering, identity management, we've got the data play, and certainly have three good entities that are working on the various cloud computing capabilities. Paul, I'm going to start with you over at U.S. Army. You just recently got appointed to the Enterprise Cloud Management Office. Congratulations, by the way. Let me start off by just asking you, where are we over there in regards to the cloud computing play?
So the Army's been on a cloud journey for a while now. So really, I'm just coming in kind of in the middle of the story, if you will. The Army had put out a cloud strategy back in 2015, but a lot of what was driving the Army's adoption of cloud for the last 5 years has been really centralized around closing data centers and trying to move to the cloud. But really the value of what cloud computing can provide the United States Army and its mission was somewhat being left behind. And so with the creation of the Enterprise Cloud Management Office, which luckily and thankfully, and I'm just honored to be here, I'm the first director of, we're shifting the focus from a cloud-first methodology for the United States Army into more of a cloud-smart and cloud-native approach to leveraging cloud. And so what this is really forcing us to do is really dive into the details of precisely how our systems have been designed, who our customers are and some of the challenges that they've been seeing, and some of the constraints of having designed a capability literally intended to fit in a box, and how we start to leverage the scale and elasticity of the cloud and then build resilience into our applications to be able to adapt to this dynamic world that we're living in. And so with the ECMO, it's really just coming in and kind of shaping the lessons learned over the last couple of years and really applying those lessons learned in a more optimized strategy where we see the true benefits of cloud shining through for the Army. And this was captured in our data XORD. It's also captured in the data plan that the Army published. And it's also captured in the cloud plan specifically that's going to be published that my office drafted. And the entire focus there is on the people and the services and the new processes and even perhaps the new way that we need to organize ourselves in order to bring the full power and value of the cloud to bear for the United States Army.
It's interesting because Army being so massive, right? And, they have a mastery of supply chain, logistics, et cetera. It's almost the same sort of thing in a cloud environment, trying to implement something that across the globe in very disparate places, et cetera. I'm sure that's a daunting task.
It very much is a daunting task. But one of the threads that I've been really leaning into is we really need to be effective first before we focus on being efficient. When you think about the large scale of the Army, I think sometimes we're scared into putting out to some written order of thou shalt must be this certain way that maybe is the best thing that we understood at that point in time, and sharing it globally. And with the dynamic learning that we're having in the cloud is, how do I actually get that new feedback out to the force immediately? That's a huge challenge, especially when you are global like the United States Army. So part of adopting the methodologies for moving to the cloud, one of the best pieces of feedback is start small and learn and then grow that effectiveness across your agency. And so that's precisely what we're doing. And so that's also codified in our data and cloud strategy when we talk about setting the conditions for us to apply lessons learned at Army scale. And that's phased throughout this current fiscal year into FY21, where we're going to be focusing on the priorities and how we want to apply lessons learned there immediately for our mission, and then we want to bring that value to scale for the Army.
Sure, I mean,
so
it's iterate, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Karen, let's toss it over to you, and you can tell us what's happening over there at the Department of State in the directorate that you're working in, but I'd like to just take a couple minutes. I know you've done this a couple of times, but I think it's worth repeating because some folks may know what that organization does. Others that have worked with it in the past, myself and others included. However, it's a very important part of the Department of State. And people a lot of times think about the Department of State, you know, diplomatic security, consular affairs. Give us 2 minutes on what what that organization does, and then talk to us about what you're doing in regards to enabling it with cloud computing.
Sure, thank you very much. So the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls is part of the Political Military Bureau at the Department of State. And what we do is we work with the interagency that includes DoD and Commerce, and we basically adjudicate licenses for US exports of everything that's on the United States munitions list. And so it's a big deal in terms of the mission of making sure that what we're doing is providing export authorization only to those programs and deals that that make sense for national security. And so we basically had a really antiquated set of on-premise solutions that were in a private network and really didn't have a lot of transparency even to our own workforce. And so I came on board about 5 years ago with the charge of modernizing the organization. And you know, this is an organization that adjudicates billions of dollars worth of defense articles and services, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so it was really, really important that we get this right. And the data is really very, you know, it needs to be, you know, the systems need to be secure because the data, the technical data is really important. And we don't want that to be in the wrong hands. And so just last February, just a few months ago, we finalized the launch of these cloud native applications. And we're using a variety of different cloud platforms, including Microsoft Azure Government Cloud, ServiceNow, Box, Octa, and Tableau. And that's what we've done in the first phase of this. And so we started out small, like Paul was talking about, and we did some of the easier applications 2 or 3 years ago. And like I said, in February, we did our main applications, and those are in Microsoft Azure Government Cloud. And so all of this is native cloud applications. So we rebuilt everything. And we also, as part of that process, we looked at, you know, how are we doing our business and using different technologies to make sure that our data is more transparent to our users, you know, that we can do more reporting, that we can have industry partner with us in ways that they were never able to do before in terms of more real-time communication about a license. So if we need additional information, we can do that in real time and make it more efficient. And I also agree with what Paul said, just in terms of, you know, you want to be effective and then efficient. And we're sort of on this journey of working with industry and working with our internal stakeholders to do just that, to make it more than just effective, to make it more efficient now so that we can adjudicate licenses and registrations and other items that we do more quickly, because, you know, that really matters in terms of the industrial base being competitive, is to be able to do this quickly so that we can be attractive in the global marketplace.
Sure, and a super important mission, and it sounds like you hit the reset button, took advantage of a lot of great emerging and modern technology, and now have a much better customer experience, right? I'm sure both internally within the State Department and externally to the people that are using those services, and that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah,
Ashley, speaking of goods and services and iterating, et cetera, I think you're the master at this, right? You've taken that program and continued to iterate it, gotten feedback through the ideation, and continue to evolve it and grow it and adapt to the merging needs and regarding the different types of demands on the FedRAMP services. So tell us what's up over there.
Thanks, Luke, and many thanks for having me today. So as a program, we continue to see tremendous growth in both agencies and cloud providers that are participating in the program. I think today we have a little over 190 authorized cloud products within the FedRAMP marketplace, which is a huge milestone for us. We've come a long way in our time that since 2011, 2012 timeframe. And really, like he said, attribute this growth to building a culture that prioritizes continuous improvement. And we look to our customers for ideas, like we did last summer with the ideation challenge on how to improve their customer experience, but also how can we improve the authorization process? How can we make it faster? How can we make it more efficient? And really, as a result of that, we just launched the FedRAMP Agency Liaison Program, which is designed to transform the way that FedRAMP informs and collaborates with federal agencies. Prior to this program, a lot of our engagement was one-on-one, or we would bring agencies in for larger training sessions. And really with this, we recognize that agencies play such a critical role in the success of the program that we wanted to exponentially grow that knowledge sharing across government. And so by bringing in a liaison from each agency, and we have roughly 30 now, we want to provide them the resources, the training, and also the collaboration space where we can all work together to have a unified understanding of the program and push latest information out about the program to them, so they can then go back to their agencies and train their colleagues. So we're really excited about that. And also it was really important for us, again, keeping in mind feedback, getting those feedback channels in place, very important for us. This group also serves as a great group to provide us feedback regarding anything that we're thinking about with the program or any shifts that we're thinking about making. Really looking forward to collaborating with this group.
And I think that's great. I mean, it's almost like this auxiliary PMO organization, right? It's this community out there. And, even things like the reciprocity, right? We've said over and over, the JAB can't certify every one of these things. We need to, in order to scale this, we need to have that reciprocity, which was the intent of the program, so that you could scale this thing out. And I think that's really important to do that. Joe, you can't do cloud without comms, and I'll tell you, you all are doing a fantastic job of trying to keep up with that demand and making sure the connectivity is there, implementing things like 5G, et cetera. Tell us about what's going on in regards to cloud computing at Verizon and how you all see it and how you fit into this.
Thank you very much. Yeah, at Verizon, we're known for the communications and the network infrastructure, and we continue, as you mentioned, 5G, we continue to enhance that, and I'll address some 5G enhancements later on. But we're also, as cloud moves out and we're working with our customers, we're moving more now into the middleware as well. So now we provide the infrastructure, the low latency, the availability, and, to support that, as well as now we're working with our customers now to provide the support for the middleware as they move. Like the gentleman from the Army had mentioned, the government now, instead of just moving an application like Gmail to the cloud, now they're moving whole IT segments to the cloud. So we're working with our business partners and customers to enable them to move their Active Directory environment or all their other applications to the cloud. And when you do that, you have to address things like latency. We bring in some edge access computing to address the latency issues. And we also we get into some of the 5G aspects. We will talk about how we can do what's called slicing, where we can send video over one stream, separate, isolated from another stream. We've also, as we deploy the solution, we've rolled in our zero trust infrastructure now. It's part of our deployment of these solutions. The framework is built, like our 5G is built on zero trust.
Right, and a lot of that technology, particularly 5G, sort of incorporates a lot of these advanced security features. And speaking of advanced security features, Habib, and Zero Trust, it was interesting. I was talking at a panel session yesterday with listening to Grant Snyder, the federal CISO, talking about the various things, and identity management and just the whole play around that, even in a zero trust environment, more so, how important that is in this new sort of ecosystem. Tell us, give us 30 seconds on what Octa is, and then how do you fit into this ecosystem to enable these capabilities?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Luke. And so Octa is an identity and access management provider, software as a service. Happy to say we do hold a FedRAMP ATO for moderate, and we're working on moving up to high. And so for us, it's all about ensuring that the right person is accessing the right application under the right conditions. And as part of Zero Trust, continually monitoring that, and whether it's signing on with a PIV card or multi-factor or some other context, right? Using all that to make and to allow our customers to make informed decisions. So when you start to look at the progress being made in cloud computing today, and kind of echoing what Karen and Paul and Ashley and Joe have already said, a lot of it is really, I think there's three things that we're seeing, or that I'm seeing. One is increased collaboration, right? Right now, especially now, given the geopolitical climate, interagency communications is becoming key, right? How do you share that information? How do you share it effectively? How do you make sure that the right person has the right access to the right information? So increases in collaboration across not just government agencies, but also state and local right now, I think is a big shift that we're starting to see improved efficiencies in, and the cloud is the backbone for a lot of that. I think as part of that as well, and I'm happy to say, I think Karen and State, they were ahead of the curve on this, but we're quickly starting to see increased efficiencies in the delivery of information through partner portals or stakeholder access. So when you're trying to access that information that's being delivered in AWS or Azure or even Snowflake, right? Making sure that end user experience is as clean, as efficient as possible, so as not to cause any undue friction. And I think the third is, and I think Paul and Joe mentioned this, was starting to leverage the cloud for what it's really good at, and increased high availability, increased resiliency in your network and your applications, and shifting that burden from your data centers and putting that up into the cloud and letting it do what it does well. So now you become more mission focused on delivering the application and less focused on, shoot, am I going to have the bandwidth that I need to deliver this application if I have a landslide event? Am I going to have the storage or the ability to pool and query that storage for all this data that I'm now aggregating for everything that I'm doing? So I think those are some of the cool trends that we're starting to see.
Yeah, you really want, I mean, look, any CIO wants to be able to extract themselves from that and focus on delivering to the mission, right? Enabling the customer experience, et cetera. And I would imagine these tools also allow for some of those personas and authorities in regards to not only who you are in regards to identity management, but what you're capable of doing and changing that dynamically, et cetera, delegating authorities, those sort of things, right?
Absolutely. I think as a byproduct of that, we're starting to see increased efficiencies and automation of that delivery, right? Exactly what you said. So as, for example, Paul just moved into this new role at Army. Well, all right, now that he has this new role, that probably comes with additional entitlements. So making sure that what he wasn't supposed to have access to before, he now has access to. What he should have lost access to, he loses, right? And whatever needs to stay the same, he maintains that access that he already had.
Exactly, exactly. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.